What's good, everybody? Welcome back to part 2 of our Nova Mixamo import tutorial, where I, B Ram from More Ram 3D, will be walking you through a basic to advanced level lighting setup that will get your characters looking just right. In the last video, we went through demystifying Mixamo auto rigging and bringing it back into Cinema 4D 2024. Now it's time to really shed some light, literally, in today's tutorial. We'll dive headfirst into 3D lighting. So whether you're creating a stunning scene or bringing your characters to life, lighting is the key to your 3D renders and truly making them shine. So come with me and enjoy this walkthrough. Okay, so now we got to get our model that Jay already provided from Mixamo. So let's open that now. All right, so we're going to add this FBX into the scene. All right, so we have Nova in the scene now, and what we have to do is transfer our textures from our T-pose model onto the new Nova. Give me a second and I will get that done. Creating lights is one thing, but fine-tuning them is where the real magic happens. We'll delve into the properties in this Nova lighting tutorial, including intensity, color temperature, and fall off, allowing you to craft the perfect lighting move for every project. So now we can hide our T-pose character of Nova so we can check out the animations that Jay sent over. Hide that. Perfect. All right, now we can check out Nova. Let's hide her bones. All right, Nova's looking pretty good, but I think she'll look a little better if we light her. Let's get her into a nice pose and maybe take a look at the animation, see where we want to go and light her at. Maybe we want to light her in the air or on the ground. Never know. Let's pick. Just back the camera off just a little bit so we can see what she's doing. So I think I'm kind of liking when she lands on the ground there. We can get a nice close-up camera of her in that dynamic pose. And let's see if we can light her. There we go. Yeah, that's a nice pose right there. Just looking up into the camera. All right, let's get started. First, we're going to start off and add a Redshift camera so we can get our camera angle. All right, so I like this angle here, but let's change our focal length so we can get a little more dynamic camera in there. So right now we're at a 90 focal length, 90 millimeter focal length. So I want to bump that up to about 100. Okay, focal length at 100. That's looking good. Let's get her all in the frame there. All right, I think that can work for our pose. She has a nice silhouette there. Maybe she's coming up, she's flipped, she's looking down on something. Can illuminate her face a little bit. Let's see what we can do. So if you're following along, we're going to actually use Redshift renderer to render Nova out. We just brought her back over from Substance Painter where we developed her shaders, and now you'll be able to see them in the Redshift renderer. But first off, we're going to actually go in here and we're going to put a protection tag on our camera. This is going to make sure that we can't move our camera around and mess up our perspective. So I'm going to go into tags, down into rigging tags, and to protection tag. So let's add our first light. First light we're going to add a dome light. So let's add that in there. And of course, if we're adding a dome light, we're going to actually put an HDRI on there. So usually I would come down here to texture and grab my favorite HDRI and plug it in. But today I'm going to actually go into my extensions and use my HDR Link Plus. And that's a plugin from Grayscale Gorilla. If you don't know, it's a wonderful plugin. I'll show you how it's used. So you click on your dome light and you grab your texture and you drag it on to your tag, and that's going to automatically allow you to control your HDRI and your dome light from their parameters and settings here. So now we can go into the tag and go to the plus library, and that'll open up. And I can pick from any HDRI that I have in here in my plus library. So I'm not going to go in there. The one I have here works just fine. I just want to use it to fill my shadows in for the second. So let's go with that. Let's turn on Redshift and see what our render looks like so far. All right, so after we turn off the background, we can get started on our lighting. We don't want our dome light to contribute too much. So I'm going to just adjust that and dial that back. I just want to use it to fill in my shadows just a little bit. And I'm going to go with a dark mood on this one, so hopefully you guys will like it. Our first light I'm going to add in will be our key light. All right, we're going to start with the area light here and add it into our scene. Let's name our camera. So let's call this main cam Nova. How about that? So now we know the name of our camera. We can come into this drop down box here and lock it on here so we can move around in our viewport. So let's go over here and grab some of these objects and turn them off because we don't need to see them in our scene anymore. So let's hide the camera. And these lights are from the previous scene I was playing around with, so let's turn those off as well. Come down here, and there you go. And as you can see, those were kind of contributing to our scene as well. So let's go back to our dome light and just turn it up just a bit. Name this our key light. Key light. And let's move the key light in front of Nova. And let's see what we get. Let's get it over here to the side. We want it to be a light that's illuminating from up in the air, kind of wrapping around her face. So let's move it off to the side and rotate it. All right, so let's rotate that around just like that. Give it an angle. I want it to be completely straight on. So it kind of wraps around her face like that. It's a little on the hot side for me for the mood I'm going for, so we can always dial it back up. So let's turn that down just a bit so we know what we're doing with each and every light that we add. All right, cool. It's a nice key light. Now I want to actually go to the reverse side and we're going to add a fill light. So what the fill light's going to do is kind of fill in the left side here and kind of give us some definition on this side of her face. We don't want too much because we're going for a dark mood, but you'll see what we can get with it. All right, so let's add another area light in here, and this will represent our fill light. So here we go, area light. So we're gonna move this area light in the front of her on the left side and rotate it just a little bit. We're going to back this off of her and make it a lot smaller. So let's hit T for scale that down. Just give her a nice little fill on that side. Don't necessarily want it to be that bright, but let's check our positioning. It's coming from really low, so let's raise that up a bit. All right. So that's giving us a fill on that side, which we don't want it that bright. So let's move it on over. And let me show you guys a trick, right? So we can turn off our other lights, and this will allow us to see what we're actually doing with this light here. So first we're going to name our light. Let's name this our fill light. And now that we can see what we're doing with our fill light, as we can see, it's wrapping around way too far to this side of her face. So what we want to do with that is angle it. So we're going to grab our fill light again. We're going to rotate it. We're going to move it off to the side here. There we go. And all we want to do is kind of fill in that side of her face with the light. And maybe we'll even back it off just a bit, just to make it a little softer. All right, perfect. So now that we have that side of her face filled in, let's not make that line so harsh. Let's see if we can see what we can do here. All right, so now that we have our fill light in there, we can turn our other lights on and see what we're getting. So that's what we have so far. It's a little bright for my liking, so we're gonna dial that fill light back down. There we go. Take that key light down just a bit. Now we can start working with our intensity, and that'll give us a little bit more fine tuning. A little more fine tuning. All right, so let's see what our key light is doing. All right, that's our key light. Let's turn this key light a little warmer. Let's see what we can do with that. Make it orange. Just a little bit. We don't want it too orangey just yet. It's nice and warm there. Keep our mood going. So let's add our fill to that. So let's dial that down just a bit. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to add what we call a rim light. So we're going to actually accent her back edge here so that she pops off the background. We've been using a lot of area lights to do most of our lighting so far, so let's switch it up a bit. We're going to actually use a spotlight. So come on, let's go in here, grab a spotlight real quick, put that in the scene, grab our spotlight. We're going to rename our spotlight, call that rim light. All right, we're going to move our rim light and then rotate our rim light so that it just gives us a nice highlight on the back here. Maybe her mech's behind her, shining light down towards her. So let's move it up just a bit. Move it up. There you go. You just want that right side just to have a little bit of light on there. You see how it's touching down on her gloves here? Gives it a nice edge. So that'll allow us to show off some of the textures that we worked on. So now that we have that light there, maybe we want to make that light blue. So maybe let's go into our rim light, go to the color, and let's go to a more darkish blue, less saturated. We can always dial it back in. All right, it's looking good to me. Our next task is to add a light to kind of cheat the orange glow that's coming from the light in the fill light. I want to make it a lot harsher on our right side and a lot more saturated. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab us another spotlight, and we're going to take our spotlight. And as you can see, we're not using our dome light anymore. So let's add it back. See what it gives us. There you go. That just fills in our shadows just a little bit. So let's take our dome light and let's drop that down even more so we can keep our mood going. So let's grab our spotlight so we can add that to the left side of Nova. And we're going to grab another spotlight and move it over here to her left side. So let's rotate our spotlight into place. There we go. Look at that. So what we're going to do with this spotlight, we're going to raise it up just a bit. Get that eyebrow in there. And if you notice, we have our highlight just kissing the side of her cheek here, and her armor, and her arm, and her hand here. And it's even bouncing off onto this side. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this spotlight and we're going to make it orange so it kind of seems like it's the same light coming from that side. So let's go into this spotlight, go to the color, and we're going to push it over into the orange. See what that does for us. All right, nice and saturated. Let's actually make this a little brighter. We're actually going to go down to the cone angle as well and play with that. See if we can get it to soften up just a bit for us. There we go. Now that we have our orange light on our right side, that's our other rim light. So we can rename our light. We'll call that our L rim light for left side. And we'll rename this one course. $100 for the person who knew that. R for the right rim light. So now that we have our lights, we can start working on some of our accent lighting. We have all of this wonderful emissive materials in here, and we can kind of cheat it and make it seem like it's illuminating a little more. So let's go grab us another light. So let's see what we can use. Maybe a spotlight will work perfect in here. So let's grab a spotlight and go down to spotlight. We're going to actually move this spotlight nice and close in here next to her hand. Move it up like it's coming from her arm. All right, let's get in closer so we can see what we're doing. All right. So let's take this spotlight and we're going to move it over here to where the emissive material is coming from. And we're going to take this here and rotate it. All right, and we're going to back that off just a bit. Push it in. Just enough. Then we'll rotate it just a bit more. There we go. And we don't want it to be that bright. So we'll take this light and we'll change it to the color of our emissive material. So now that kind of gives us a nice light under there. We're playing off of here. So let's actually dial that back just a little bit. Dial that down and we'll rotate it up so we can get some of that edge coming on her chest plate there. All right. Let's see what kind of silhouette we can make with this light. Let's angle it. We could always move it out. Rotate it. Let's see. All right. Almost there. Almost there. After this, we'll actually mess with the cone angle, and that will allow us to make the light not look so harsh. So let's go down to our cone angle. Let's make it a lot wider. A lot wider. There you go. And now that we have it wider, we're going to see what our fall off is. All right. Let's dial that down just a bit. Take our fall off curve down just a little bit. All right, that's illuminating just a little too much. So now we can dial down our intensity. All right, that's looking good to me. We have another emissive material coming from her neck here, so we can kind of make some green, maybe highlight her shoulder here and make that pop up. The same spotlight that we were using for her wrist, we're just going to move it up to her shoulder. Let's get this spotlight moved over and duplicated. So E for move, hit command and drag, and that should duplicate our light for us. All right, let's move this light up to her shoulder. This will give us the light coming from her neck guard here. Rotate that down. and move it over to the left so it can hit her shoulder as well. We don't want this to be too bright. And move it in. And let's move that back out. It's a lot of nudging. So there we go. That looks a little better. Perfect. Let's rename this shoulder. RS is pretty good. So R shoulder spotlight. All right. So let's take that shoulder spotlight and we're going to dial down that intensity a bunch. All right. That's looking good, huh? I also want to see some of that green come down here onto her chest plate. So I'm just going to copy this one and rotate it down. So hit Command, rotate, and now we have a duplicate. So we can move that over. And this is going to take care of all the green highlights on her right arm. All right, so let's back that off. Move it over here. And we're going to nudge this down into place. So this one wants to be a little lower. So it looks like it's coming from the bottom of her neck guard. So we're going to move it over here. And we're going to rotate it. So there we go. And rotate it up just a bit. Get it on that chest plate there. Let's connect those lights together so it looks like it's the same light. That's way too harsh, so let's turn it and back it off just a bit. All right. So now we can nudge this light a little further down. There we go. And I'll even bring it out just a bit. Just a bit. There we go. And maybe rotate it just a little bit more. All right, so let's turn this one. Let's rename this right shoulder. It's already named 1 and 2. So let's just dial this one down, way down, so it doesn't overpower the other one. Perfect. Look at that. That's really getting to show off the roughness on our material here. So that's basically what we're trying to do, is just light the subject and show the silhouette as best as we can. The only other thing that I would do now is give myself a top light, kind of accenting our hair. So let's go over here into our lights again, and we will grab us an area light. So we'll take an area light in here. And our scene is getting a little crowded, huh? So we can hide the lights that we're using. So let's hide these. Turn these red stop lights red in the scene. The top one is the scene. The bottom one is the render. So there we go. Now we can only see our area light, which is our top light now. And one other light. So let's take this and rename it. So we're going to name this one top light. And this is just going to give us a little bit more highlight on her hair. So let's take this light and move it into position. All right, go up with it. Rotate it about 90 degrees. That'll work for me. All right, we're going to move this way up into the air because we don't really necessarily need it. We just want it to give us some highlights on our hair. All right, let's dial that back down and turn the exposure down just a bit. And we're going to match the blue color maybe from the other light. If you want to copy the color, we're just going to go down into our rim light, use the same color here, copy, go to our top light, and paste. So now we're working with the same color, and it's just wrapping around her hair here, giving us a little more detail. So let's go back into that light, and let's play with that just a bit. Let's move it off to the back. There we go. We don't want it to go on the front of her face. We just want to accent the back of her hair. All right. So let's see what we can do with this light. Let's move it back just a little bit more so we don't overpower our orange light in the front. There's only one more thing I want to do. I kind of want to make a little green highlight on the inside of her thigh and her right arm here. So we can do that really fast, and we can go in and make one of our wrists. Let's see, is that our wrist? We didn't rename it, so we're going to rename this wrist light. We'll duplicate this light again, and we will turn that towards her thigh. So hit the rotate, hold command, and we will rotate to duplicate our light. And rotate it down. There we go. Now we have green in here. The shadows aren't so harsh. We can actually see her details popping. For one more bonus tip, we're going to add one more light in, and we're going to call that our bounce light. So this is actually going to take our orange light and kind of fill in these areas in the front here that we can't really see. And it's just going to be a really soft light, so it really won't do much, but it'll definitely give us some color in the front. So let's grab another area light, and we're going to move that down into the front of her face and bounce it up from the ground. And we will move our area light into place. All right, so that's super overblown. T for scale, scale that down. We're going to hit E to move it. And this is like she's looking down off a cliff or something, or wherever she flipped to. She's interested in whatever's going on down there. And this is going to illuminate her face just a bit. So we take this one and we angle it up at her face. Let's move around to the front, see how that's looking. Take it and back it off just a bit. Make it nice and soft. So it's really overpowering. We want to go into our rim light here. That's our orange light. Copy our color. Copy. Move in here, which this is our bounce light. And we will paste our color into our bounce light. That kind of overpowered our scene, so we're going to come in here and we're going to dial that way back, way back, just enough so we can see what we got going on here. All right. Let's move that in. Just to see what we can get it to do. And let's turn it off. Turn it on. All right, that just fills in those shadows just a little bit. So let's turn it down just a little bit more. We don't want it to be too overpowering. Keep on going. Just gives us a little bit more underneath their chin here. And we could even move it down just a little bit more. We're in 3D. We can do what we want. And there you have it. A comprehensive guide to lighting in Redshift and Cinema 4D 2024, tailored specifically to make your character look incredible. And remember, lighting is an art. And with this advanced lighting setup, now you're equipped to create stunning character renders. So go ahead, experiment, and let your renders shine. Thanks for joining us on this journey, and we can't wait to see how your renders turn out. Until the next time, happy rendering.